Right, well, I think anyone else who comes can just pop into the discussion as and when it starts. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar today, How to Monetize Data on Google Cloud Analytics Hub. This webinar is part of a series hosted by DataRaid, all designed to help data providers grow their data businesses. I'm Lucy, I'm Marketing Manager at DataRaid, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. And like I said, it's really great to see so many data providers joining us on the call today, some of whom I know I've spoken to in the past, and some of whom are new names as well. So welcome, everybody. I really hope you enjoy today's webinar. So to begin, I will introduce our two guest speakers today, beginning with Nikhil, who is Product Lead at Google Cloud Analytics Hub. Nikhil joined Google Cloud in 2021, and he is responsible for Analytics Hub and for big data clean rooms in BigQuery. And prior to working for Google, Nikhil worked at Microsoft for 6 years, and he oversaw the company's Power BI SaaS product. So Nikhil, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Pleasure to have you. Our second speaker is DataRaid's very own product lead, Martin. And Martin joined us at the beginning of 2023, and he is responsible for DataRaid's two core products, DataRaid Marketplace and the Data Commerce Cloud. Prior to working for us at DataRaid, Martin worked for DFL for 4 years, and he was responsible for improving customer personalization and probability insights. So again, big thank you to Nikhil and Martin for joining us for our webinar today. Before we get started with our discussion, I'll just lay down some agenda points and ground rules. So by default, all participants will have their cameras and microphones switched off. But if you like, you can submit reactions, you can type something into the Q&A channel if you should have a question. However, I did collect quite a lot of questions that you registered when you signed up for this webinar. So I've collected all of those and we'll submit them to Nikhil and Martin towards the end of the webinar. As for the agenda, so quite simple today, we will begin with a discussion with Nikhil about Analytics Hub, who's using it, what's going on in the industry, as well as a brief history of the Analytics Hub platform. Nikhil will then give us a demo of how the platform is working from a buyer perspective, and then we will have a demo from Martin explaining how the integration between Data Commerce Cloud and Analytics Hub is working. So how you, as a data provider, can publish on Analytics Hub instantly via DCC. And then finally, we'll finish up with a Q&A from using your questions from the audience with both Nikhil and Martin. So with that, Nikhil, I think we can probably get started with our discussion. My first question for you is, what drew you to work for Google, and particularly in the data analytics team at Google?
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. And before I get started and answer the question, everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, DataRaid team, for hosting this and having me as a guest speaker. I'd say very good question. So what drew me to Google and data analytics team? I'd say two things. One is opportunity. The second one is impact. Speaking of opportunity, I believe Google Cloud has done tremendously the last few years in terms of making an impact with customers and also driving a lot of use cases for a variety of industries. And when I was back in 2021, when I was looking for new things to go build and solve, by background, I'm an engineer, so I like to build things and solve real world use cases. Found that there was an opportunity that my lead, Brian Walker, presented where we could really change the industry for data sharing and also the ability to commercialize data assets and data products. So saw this opportunity, again, as an engineer who likes to build things. This is something that we were starting from scratch. So it enticed me to join Google. And also the impact, which is the ability, as Google to build solutions that reaches thousands or millions of customers around the world is really powerful. So those are the two things that drew me to joining Google and also the data analytics team. And also I've worked with data for quite some time prior to Google, as well as working at Microsoft on the Power BI platform, more on the BI side. So I always had a strong passion for data and leveraging data to unlock insights. So this was a continuation of that.
Awesome. Yeah, and actually that ties nicely to my next question, which is about how you find sourcing data, or how you did find sourcing data in your previous roles, perhaps. Did you encounter difficulties? What blockers were there? Which platforms were your go-tos? Yeah. How did you find sourcing data?
Yeah, so as a product manager, one of the important aspects of your day-to-day job is to measure success for your product, measure how your customers are engaging with the product, and also forecast some of the signals and demands for whatever area you're working in. We've realized that in the last few years that you can't just rely on the operational data that you're collecting within your organization. You have to leverage data that's been made available from external data assets and combine that with your first party data to generate new insights. So while I was at Microsoft in that case, again, we were looking for customer signals. We were looking for areas where we can improve both their product side and also our go-to-market motions, especially with marketing. So that's where we leverage a lot of external data sets in combination of first-party data to drive better campaigns, understand customer segments, understand personalization. Um, Again, being in the product management discipline, you're trying to understand more about the customers that are using the product and some of their motives that drives them to continue to build on top of your platform. So that's where I've had the experience previously. And more so, I would say I have more experience working with customers that are using, again, when I was at Microsoft, it was Power BI, now in Google Cloud Analytics side, who are sharing data, across their organizational boundaries tremendously. One of the stats that we pulled up very recently in BigQuery is that there are thousands of organizations sharing over 350 petabytes of data across boundaries per week. Like that's incredible to see. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of demand for this. And again, product management is one discipline, but there are so many use cases. I'm sure Martin probably vouch for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a testament to how great of a product you've built. Like that exchange, that volume of exchange is facilitated over the platform. It's really phenomenal. And yeah, a testament of how much demand there is for this. So you were talking about you as a product owner, product lead, you had a great need for data. Where else do you see demand for data on Analytics Hub specifically, but more from a role perspective? So do you see marketers on there? Do you see sellers on there? Do you see entrepreneurs on there? Who is it exactly, or what kind of buyer profiles do you see using Analytics Hub at the moment?
Yeah, one of the great things about Analytics Hub and even the product that we've built is we're seeing demand across the industries. We initially did have a lot more data providers that had financial data and more financial data assets, but in the last year, we've seen there are data assets and data providers across the different industries, whether it's advertising, marketing, um, financial sector, uh, media, and platforms, even just research. So there's a lot of institutions and universities that are using Analytics Hub to conduct research for whatever use cases they have. So I'd say it's spread across. There isn't one area or segment which we say is more stronger than the other. I think we're starting to see customers use this as a common data sharing platform, or for commercial providers, a way for them to go monetize their data through Analytics Hub.
Interesting. And how much traction do you see from these researchers or builders for AI and ML use cases specifically? Is that something you've seen an uptick on?
Yes, absolutely. I think before the beginning of this year, we started to see, BigQuery has machine learning built in. So if you want to build models and share that through Analytics Hub, you can do that. And the reason that we built Analytics Hub on top of BigQuery is to take advantage of some of the built-in capabilities. So customers don't have to, move the data or use a different platform to build modeling and leverage some of the AI capabilities. So more recently, with the introduction of Gen AI, and of course, a lot of customers looking into use cases where they can use large language models, uh, there's certainly been a lot of customers coming in, leveraging some of the new integrations that we've built. Again, speaking of BigQuery and generic, we've built integrations with the Vertex AI, which is the other AI platform in Google Cloud, and also Duet AI to be able to use natural language to orchestrate queries. So certainly going to see a lot more demand on the AI side. And again, the more important thing is, are there data assets available that unlock some of these new insights, and can you, build models or consume models that help you generate content that you couldn't do previously?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think the integrations that you're progressing with there are a testament to how AI is just becoming such a preeminent use case in the space. So, but I'm conscious that we don't want to focus too much on exactly the buyer group using Analytics Hub. We also want to be aware that our provider audience is interested in how exactly they can manipulate and share their data so that it is readily available and readily usable for buyers. So I suppose what I'm asking is a question that we've been thinking a lot about at DataRaid. What does a great data product look like? What does a great data set ready to use for a range of use cases look like, and how can providers create that in Analytics Hub?
Yes. So what we've also seen as a trend within the industry is that there are more and more data providers, or businesses in general, that realize that they have valuable data that they want to go commercialize or monetize, and think about having a new avenue for revenue with the data assets that they have. And which is why data as a product came to be a new sort of notion within the industry. And we've had data providers that have existed for decades, who essentially their core business and goal in life is to sell valuable assets to their customers. And we've also had new up and coming businesses that realize, okay, this is another way of us to open up a new line of revenue. What we've seen successful data providers do, and also new businesses, is they essentially go after a use case. They understand their customer segment, and they market their data product to solve a particular use case that they're seeing, their customers or their businesses experience. Again, going back to building products that solve real world problems. So if I put on my product manager hat, I would start with, what are the use cases that you're solving? Who are the customer segments that you're targeting for your data product? And can you build your data assets that make it easy for someone to subscribe to your data and then start running the queries that allow them to get value right away? So I'd say that sort of combination of have a problem that you're solving for, build the data assets for that use case, and then be able to make it easier for your buyers or subscribers to be able to subscribe to it and get value is super important.
I think that's super valuable advice, and it makes so much sense because yeah, you're not targeting a particular buyer profile. As we're probably all aware, data is such a versatile thing. It's useful for any use case, but really focusing on one specific pain point and building a product that solves that, it's fabulous advice. So final question probably on this segment, and in contrast to what we've just discussed, this ideal of what data providers should build, what do you see as the one biggest obstacle preventing more companies from monetizing their data and adding this additional revenue stream?
Yeah, speaking to a lot of customers, I think there isn't a single obstacle. There is few things that customers need to think about. But I'd say that the top one that comes up is, again, for someone that's new into the business and trying to open up a new line of revenue, it's certainly the ability to figure out what data assets can they distribute and make available to their customers. Again, internally, going through all the legal um, requirements and policies that are within their organization to figure out, okay, what is something that they can go make available to customers. And the second thing is to be able to distribute that on a platform, with ease. And that's exactly what we've done with Analytics Hub is, can we make it easier for data providers to come in and start to list their data products or assets and share it out at scale, without having to move their data out of BigQuery, because in-place sharing is important, and also be able to, again, change their positioning and their data assets without, going through tremendous processes and things behind the scenes. So I'd say that the main obstacle is figuring out what you want to go monetize and make available. Second thing is, how do you do that at scale? And Analytics Hub solves for both of that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's why our collaboration, DCC and Google Cloud Analytics Hub, makes so much sense, because we're both trying to ameliorate those pain points of finding the right audience and finding the right people who are looking for the data that you have on offer. So yeah, again, makes great sense, and it's great collaboration. Final thing I want to ask Nikhil before we move on to your demo is, you were at Google Next conference a few weeks ago, and I wondered, for any of us who didn't make it, I couldn't make it, if there's anything you learned there about data monetization best practices that you could share with our providers.
Yeah, thanks, Lucy. I think Google Cloud Next was the first in-person conference we've had in quite some time, and it was great to see all the enthusiasm and excitement from customers. And yes, there were many customers and data providers that showed up that already use Analytics Hub to share their data assets and certainly monetize. What they've done today, so we'll probably go through this in the demo, is today data providers have the ability to set up their own processes to intake the customers that are interested in their product. And many of them do this via a form. Some of them use emails, but a lot of the customers said, using Google Forms or some sort of way that they have, through that make it easier for leads to come through to their product was something that they found very useful. Um, we've had some data providers say that, like, we want built-in request access controls, but many of them have also, said the current way of being able to customize how they get their leads into sort of their sales cycle has been really rewarding. So I'd say that's one thing that I took away from the conference, to say we should keep the platform flexible and make it easier for data providers to choose how they want to, take on the requests that they're getting for their data asset, and be able to work with their customers that are interesting through that.
Yeah, and I think that's such a that ties so closely with one of our core values, as we're looking at building a product which allows data businesses to run their data businesses as they like, as they always have done. So yeah, great to see that that's echoed across the pond as well at Google Next. Well, Nikhil, if you like, you can start giving us a demo of exactly how Analytics Hub is working from a buy-side perspective, because I think this is something that not all of our providers have seen, and it's a really impressive insight into how the platform is working. So whenever you like, feel free to share your screen.
Yes, so I actually want to walk through just a quick journey of both, for a provider who's making data available. Again, Data Rate and Data Commerce Cloud will be the platform that they would choose. But just to give you a glimpse of how easy it is for you to create a listing and share it out to customers, and then also show you from a buyer side how easy it is to subscribe. So you'll sort of see the end-to-end journey. Let me share my screen here. I will walk through the three main personas that we always allude to, thinking about Analytics Hub. One we call an exchange admin. Again, the way that we have set up Analytics Hub is You have data exchanges that you create to essentially orchestrate who gets to make data available. These are your publishers, and who gets to subscribe to them. And then you have listings that have metadata about the data itself, and then you subscribe to a listing to get access to it. So I'm going to walk you through a quick demo of how to do, create a data exchange. How do you invite data publishers to publish their data, and then subscribe to it from a data subscriber side. So here I'm in the BigQuery console, and what you would do is go into Analytics Hub. So here you see all the exchanges that you have available. The first thing you would do is create an exchange. And then let's just say, again, since we're talking about monetizing data, I'll call this a commercial exchange. And then you have some metadata to fill out for primary contact description. Once you create the exchange, again, without getting into too much detail, I believe the Data Commerce Cloud will essentially facilitate all this for the data providers behind the scenes. But it's good to just get a glimpse of what you'll be able to do on the platform as well. Then you'll be able to assign permissions of who can publish data, who can subscribe to it, and who can view the listing. So I do have a publisher user and then a subscriber user, which I'll use later on the demo. And then for viewers, these are all the users that can view your listing and then request access if they're not have subscribe permissions for that data. So you can choose all authenticated users as your viewers. So everyone in Google Cloud will be able to see your listings, but they won't be able to subscribe to it. All right, so that's as easy as it gets to create an exchange. And the next step is to go make your data available or publish your data on the platform. So I'm going to stop sharing and switch to the publisher user, who will have the ability to essentially publish data. All right, going back to Analytics Hub here, you'll see very soon that the commercial exchange that I just created will appear here. And because I have the publisher permissions, the next step is for me to make my data asset available as a listing. Uh, Before I show that, if you go to BigQuery Studio, this is where I can go manage my data assets in BigQuery. So under my project, I've created a sample one, which is my data product. This has only a single sample table that contains information that I want to share. So because, again, this is BigQuery, and you can manage your data assets in BigQuery, if you have things like row level security, or you want to filter your data assets to certain subscribers, so they're not seeing the entire data set, but only a subset of the data, all of that you can go configure here before you make your data product available. So a lot of flexibility for data providers in BigQuery to use the built-in capabilities on the platform. All right, so let's just say I want to make my data product available as a listing in Analytics Hub. So go back to the commercial exchange, I create a listing, and this is where you get to add your metadata about the data itself. So my data product, so I'll give this a name. So I'll just say commercial listing to keep this very simple. Again, won't go through all this. You can assign primary contacts. This is where the request access workflow comes into picture. So your request access contact can either be an URL or an email that you want your customers to reach out to for your listing. So it's customizable for you. Uh, Provide information about the data provider publisher. You can also upload an icon. Let me choose an icon here. I'll choose the Analytics Hub one. And then here, this is where you select the data asset that you're sharing. So in this case, it's my data product. We've also added new controls in place. So if you're a commercial provider who does not want your subscribers to egress the data out of BigQuery, we have controls in place for you to prevent that as well. And then under documentation, this is where you essentially have your listing. So you can use Markdown, and I've done this already, where you can provide a description, sample queries, links, etc. So this essentially becomes your page for your data product. So when I look into this listing, this is what the customers that come browse and look at your listing would be able to see. So we've done two things so far. We've created the exchange. We've created the listing as a publisher or a data provider. So now let's change hats to the buyer side. We call them subscribers in Analytics Hub. So who gets to browse all the listing and subscribe to the data. So we'll stop sharing again, and then now share the subscriber experience. All right, so our goal with data subscribers is that we also want to make it easier for data buyers and subscribers to discover assets and then request access or subscribe to them right away. Where we see a lot of our customers spend time, of course, as data analysts, is in BigQuery Studio. This is where you can, you know, have your private first-party data or any other data assets you're subscribing to. And this is where you would run queries to build your reporting and all the analysis that you're doing on top of the data. So the way that you go browse or discover assets in BigQuery Studio is you click on Add and then choose Analytics Hub. And this is the discovery experience that we've built in. So here you have access to all the data assets that are both public, commercial. We've also introduced data clean rooms very recently for privacy-centric data sharing. So in this experience, you get to go browse and search for the data assets you're interested in. And many of these are also listed by DataRate today in the Data Commerce Cloud from DataRate. So we have that as well. So the listing that I created, the commercial listing is here. So if I click into this, what I just created previously as a publisher is made available. What I can do is click on Add Dataset to Project. So this is the subscription workflow. And then give this a name and then hit Save. What this will do is create what we call a linked data set in my project. This linked data set, again, as a subscriber or buyer, is a link to the data that's been shared that I'm subscribing to. And essentially, you can run queries against this. You're not making a copy of this data. The goal is that you're essentially getting access to this data without making multiple copies. More important thing for commercial providers, if I go back to Analytics Hub, and let's just say, I believe some of these might be commercial assets. So let me just choose this one. If I don't have access to this, what I can do, and this is from DataRate, there we go. What I can do is I can click on request access. What this will do is this will go through the request access workflow that is set up. So in this case, DataRate has set this up where you can get information about the customer interested in your data and then go through the workflows there. So this is what it will look like for someone who does not have subscribe permissions. All right, so that's essentially the subscription workflow. What I want to end off with is some of the new capabilities that we have for data publishers in Analytics Hub. So going back to the screen for a publisher, we've heard from many of our customers that it's important for me to understand who's subscribed to my data and also understand what type of queries they're running against data, like what type of usage am I seeing on the tables that are shared. So there's two new features that we introduced. So let me just go refresh this here. If I go into the exchange that I'm in, I can see that this commercial listing that I just published has one subscriber. So when I go into subscriptions, I can see who has this been subscribed by. So this is my subscriber user, which organization, and is their subscription active. And what date it was subscribed on. So we've had built-in subscription management capabilities, so you can manage this right away. Importantly, if say someone has completed their subscription, they don't no longer need access to the data, you can instantly remove them at any time. So removing subscriptions can remove access to their linked data set, and they no longer will be able to access that data anymore. So built-in subscription management capabilities for Analytics Hub. And the other thing is usage metrics. So for someone who is running queries against this data, so let me go back to my other tab and run a quick query. So what you'll be able to see is if someone runs a query against your table and data, you'll be able to see how many queries are run against this data set, and essentially be able to track which table is being queried frequently, and see additional metrics on this. Oh, I just deleted my subscription. That's why I can't run a query. But yeah, we have built-in sort of reporting here, so we can see the total subscriptions, subscribers, jobs they executed per organization, et cetera. So all the usage metrics is built in. And again, you can revoke access and change access at the exchange level or the listing level at any time. So I think this is a lot of the integrations that we work closely with DataRate to go build and make available for our customers. All right, that's
Awesome.
pretty much the end-to-end for Analytics Hub. Let me just pause here and hand it back to you, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. That was so insightful. I mean, even for me to see, especially those two end features that you showed. Firstly, the access, like revoking access to subscriptions that providers have. I think that's a really powerful tool, and as well as the control over how you can egress data out of BigQuery. That's a very powerful and I think probably very sought after tool. And then secondly, the metrics, right? The usage insights, who's subscribing to my product, how many queries are they running on it, what kind of queries, because it's exactly those kind of insights that will allow our data providers to optimize their listings so that they're more suitable for similar kinds of subscribers. So I think that's a great feature that you've added. And now we can transition very nicely to Martin, who will show again how we've tried to build a collaborative product, a collaborative integration between Data Commerce Cloud and Analytics Hub, again, to make the data provider experience as seamless as possible. Over to you, Martin.
Thanks, Lucy. And also thanks, Nikhil, for the very good demo here. I hope you can see my screen. I'm showing currently the Data Commerce Cloud, the DCC, logged into our demo account from DataRate. And this is how it looks. And what I'm going to show you is what DataRate did basically to do everything Nikhil just showed within the Data Commerce Cloud. So it all starts very easily with creating and also very obviously creating the listings. So this is something which needs to be done obviously here as well. So basically you set up your data catalog, give it the meta information, metadata you want to give. And then this is already obviously now done already for our demo account. And then you are good to go. Then you go over to our sales channel overview page. We have obviously a lot of sales channels in there. The good thing is the data catalog can be synced with all of these channels. Then you select the Google Cloud Analytics Hub, read the terms and conditions, agree, and activate the channel. This is now doing at the back end, basically using Google's API, exactly what Nikhil just demoed, uploading all of the metadata, the title, the description, the categories, the geo coverage, the sample preview. So we do have some sample data, the first 10 rows of the data sample available on there as well. And now switching over to the Google Cloud Analytics Hub, looking for DataRate. This is obviously not publicly available, but there is already everything synced now. You can see, you saw this as well in Nikhil's demo, right? So this is basically all the information synced. And now once the user saw it again in the demo as well. The buyer user fills out the form. The buyer user becomes a subscriber to the sample preview, can assess the sample for it. The information collected here will be forwarded to the provider, and then the conversation can start regarding buying of the production data. And that's it. That's how simple it is for providers on the DCC to get listed on Google Cloud Analytics Hub. And yeah, that's also my demo for today. So very much looking forward to your questions. Very glad that so many of you joined. Yeah, and back to you, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Martin. Yeah, I think that process won't be unfamiliar to a lot of people on the call, as they are already existing DCC providers. They've already utilized the channel integrations. But I think for those who aren't yet using DCC, aren't yet a premium provider, it's continuously impressive to me just how fast that listing process happens. It really is just build your products within DCC, submit the activation, and then within seconds virtually they are already on Analytics Hub. So I think that's props to Martin and Nikhil and all of the rest of the product guys involved in this whole integration, because it is really working so seamlessly. Yes, so time for Q&A. And the first question that I would like to ask both of you, actually, whoever wants to chime in, is related to that last point that you made, Martin, about channel integrations and how buyers or subscribers can find the data on marketplaces. So with a growing number of marketplaces, including Analytics Hub and DataRate Marketplace, our own product, what is the decision tree publishers should be making when they're looking to publish on all of these data marketplaces as efficiently as possible?
I can start, and then maybe Nikhil, you can chime in. I think that's the beauty of the Data Commerce Cloud, right? So we offer a lot of integrations. We will offer even more integrations in the future, and also we do know that we also need to guide providers even more when choosing the right channel, right? There are some very broad and very big reach channels like Google Cloud, but there might be also some others that are very specific to one category or one use case. So I think it's very important that the data offering is very much complying with the channel and the audience on there.
Yeah, plus one to what Martin said. I think it's important for the data providers to meet where their customers are, right? That's once you can start with the use case and who you're targeting, making your data product available across all the marketplaces or platforms is important. For those that are don't already have their data on Google Cloud or BigQuery, you'll certainly see a lot of demand, depending on the data asset that you have, for customers that are running their analytics on BigQuery itself. And instead of you using the traditional methods of making data available, which is flat files or FTP, you can use Analytics Hub to bring your data into BigQuery, keep it in place, and distribute it at scale to hundreds or thousands of subscribers or buyers, without having to make multiple copies of that data. And the data is, once you subscribe to a data asset, it's available in real time. So if you're making updates to the underlying asset, your customers or your buyers don't have to, resync everything again. They have access to the latest and greatest through Analytics Hub. So that's also important to consider.
Cool. And then Nikhil, this question came from one provider, and this is probably more aimed at you because it's a BigQuery related question. How can providers optimize their listings for BigQuery subscribers? So which metadata needs to be in there, which maybe isn't so important on other data marketplaces, for example?
Yeah, so when we went through that listing creation process and also the integration that DataRate has built with Analytics Hub, We provide the flexibility for the provider to use Markdown to pretty much personalize the experience that they want their buyers to see when they come into their listing and landing page. I think it's important, again, to articulate the data. If you have information on the schema itself, what you'll see when you subscribe, and also sample queries is something that we've seen a lot of data providers, found success in, where when you subscribe to something right away, if you can run a query and see some of the insights, that's a great start for someone who's a data analyst who's trying to get started with that data asset. So I'd say those are the things to focus in on. Again, time to value and making it easier for your buyers to be able to see the insights right away is going to be important.
Super. Yeah. And so that's a great insight into how specifically an analyst could be wowed by their first interaction with the data product. So really seeing the tangible benefit that it could have, which is related to another question which came from one of our providers about Analytics Hub and how they can best adopt it within their organization. And it was whether you had any specific advice per role within an organization using Analytics Hub. So best advice for sellers, best advice for marketers, best advice for whatever, and whether that differs from how they use Analytics Hub as a platform.
So we're really positioning Analytics Hub as the data sharing platform in Google Cloud. So today we support BigQuery data assets. So if you have data sets in BigQuery and you want to share it to your end users or customers or commercialize it, Analytics Hub is a platform. In the future, we're going to be growing beyond just BigQuery data assets. So thinking about, data is not just data sets and tables, it's models. So think about Vertex AI models, notebooks that you're creating. Also, you're bundling not just the data assets, sometimes also the reporting that you built on top of the data. So if you have a Looker Studio block or a report that you want to share, those will be something that we'll include. So you can bundle your data product with not only the raw data itself, but other assets together, and then distribute that to their end users. So going back to your question on what are the roles and how they should think about it, of course, you'll be working with your IT admin, regardless of which function you're in, to set up Analytics Hub and make sure that you have the right permissions in place. But once you have that, whether you go through your admin or work directly with the Data Commerce Cloud with Data Raid, it's very easy and simple for you to distribute that. And I think that what Martin showed, and it didn't go into a lot more detail, but what the platform that Data Raid has with the ability to see your leads, to kind of do the entire sales plan cycles is going to be really important. Which again, we're sort of the platform that facilitates data sharing. I think the part that Data Raid excels in and again is valuable for many commercial providers is some of the other aspects that's involved in commercializing your data. So that's one emphasis that I want to go back to.
Awesome. And yeah, I think, again, just to reinforce how symbiotic this relationship is, because as you say, Data Raid is well seasoned when it comes to working with sellers and with marketers. So I think it's only inevitable that those are the kind of questions, or those are the kind of people submitting the questions for us, because it's not new territory for us to work with sellers and marketers, but for analytics Hub users, maybe this is more of a new thing that we're exploring. So I think it's really going to be exciting when we see this partnership between our two products develop and broaden out to a wider range of roles who can use it. So Martin, maybe this is a bit of a redundant question, but it did come from one provider. Do all of our company's DCC listings automatically show on Google Cloud Analytics Hub? I think your demo spoke to that, but anything you want to add?
Exactly. Only if you activate it, only if you like your products to be shared with it, they are also shared. And yeah, how to do it, I showed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's probably important to reinforce that this is an optional integration, but really is a very powerful one, which we've seen a lot of our customers utilizing. Another question for you, Nikhil. How does Analytics Hub work personally with data provider customers, if at all? Is it really a product-led thing, or is there any more face-to-face interaction with data providers who you've built up a particular relationship with?
Yeah, so we've essentially, what have you started to grow the platform? There are many data providers that are well established within the industry for a long time. Again, they do this as their core business, and we do partner with those data providers directly and essentially help them thinking about go-to-market strategies, ways that they could, cater their data assets to make available in Analytics Hub and Google Cloud. And again, there are some data providers that prefer a centralized platform like DataRaid to facilitate all of that. And that's why we have this close partnership where you can go to a single platform that helps you work across the different marketplaces that you have. And of course, if DataRaid wants to, extend the partnership from just DataRaid directly to Google Cloud, we also have avenues of doing that as well. And we have a partnership team as well in Google Cloud that helps with the data partnerships. And there's a few folks that on this team that we can work with as well. And I think Martin and Lucy, you're in touch with some of the folks there.
Yes.
Certainly are. Yes. And then final question, as I'm aware, we're probably coming towards the end of our webinar time. For both of you, whoever wants to chime in, where do you see the collaboration between DataRaid's DCC and Google Cloud Analytics Hub going in future? What features would you like to see? Which optimizations? Where do you think the next steps for our partnership are?
Okay,
I'll let Martin go first, and then
yeah, perfect.
Go for it.
Nice. I think, Nikhil, you demoed great stuff, right? So also the whole analytics insight kind of things is something which we are not currently getting back into DCC. So I think that's one of the biggest opportunities I see our partnership evolving more, exchanging information not only in one direction, right? So but also in the other, getting those insights also to the providers who come to Google Cloud Analytics Hub via DataRaid, via the DCC. On the other hand side, I think you emphasized this a lot, right? That Analytics Hub is a great a way to share data. And at the moment, it's about sharing sample data, right? But I think in the future, I see also a big potential sharing the actual data, the production data, with users, with customers which are on the platform, which need the data on the Analytics Hub, on BigQuery. And I think that's also something where we can do a lot in the future.
Yeah, I'll wrap up by saying +1 to all of that. And we started with this partnership, I think almost a year ago, where we thought about how can we get many of the data providers that are on DataRaid that were not in Analytics Hub onto the platform. And we've seen tremendous success within the last several months of more data providers coming on board, listing their data assets, and seeing their data be used by many buyers and subscribers as well through Analytics Hub. So we'll continue on that journey, continue to accelerate and see exponential growth there. As Martin alluded to previously, it's important for commercial data providers to realize there are additional integrations that DCC has done to other marketplaces, and also talked about sales plays and things that you would want to do outside of just a data sharing platform. And that's where I believe DCC will excel, and that's why we want to continue to partner as Google Cloud with Data Commerce Cloud, and as in integration partner that provides additional benefits that we wouldn't really bake into a data warehouse platform. So that's where we kind of see the symbiotic relationship moving forward, and we're excited to get more data providers coming on board and sharing their data through Analytics Hub and Google Cloud.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for that really nice conclusion to what I think has been a really informative webinar. Really had some great discussions and demos there. And I think probably the most exciting takeaway is what's next to come with this integration to really bring value to data providers. So how can they best monetize their data? Well, it's with insights, it's with better sample sharing capabilities. All of these things will contribute to an even better data monetization strategy that they can unlock using DCC and Google Cloud Analytics Hub in symbiosis. So again, Nikhil and Martin, thank you so much for the great discussion and demo there. And thank you everyone who joined our webinar today. I really hope that you found it insightful, engaging, and if there are any more questions that you might have, you can feel free to reach out to me and we can answer them if we have the answers. And I would also remind you, stay tuned for our next webinar in this series on how you can grow your data business. There'll be more on that soon. And thank you all for joining today. Bye-bye.
Thank you all, and thank you, Lucy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you, Lucy,
everyone.
for
Have a lovely evening.
facilitating.
Bye.
Bye.